Aaron? Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Everybody across the universe. Here we are. It's just me and Drew. You notice no Cho today. It's no Cho November. Well, no, he's been here for most of the month, I guess. He's off because he's making his yearly sojourn to the frozen plains of Iowa for Thanksgiving. They drive every year.
Straight.
Yeah. And what is it, like 13,
19?
14? Damn. 19 hours.
I might have made that up. That doesn't sound right. No,
I don't know, man. I don't know. Georgia to Iowa. I mean, we drove from Salina to Daytona Beach right after we graduated high school, naturally.
This is such a, you know, it's like when my grandfather was like, he always kept his girlfriend's 2 Shoney's away.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
How far is it compared to Myrtle Beach?
So, and that took 12 hours.
I'm listening. I'm going to look it up while
12 hours one way. My buddy Charles, you know Charles.
I know Charles.
He drove from...
Is it Des Moines?
Around Webster City.
Okay.
He drove from right around Chattanooga to Miami to go to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It was 18 hours. He drove there, went to WrestleMania, watched the match, got in his car, and drove 18 hours back.
That's crazy.
From Miami to Tennessee.
I drove to Miami to move there.
Yeah.
Now we had a trailer, and it was raining at one point, and we had to get out and do the tarp, but it took us 18 and a half hours. Now, I'm sure Charles made better time without moving, but Jesus, not much. 15 is probably the quickest you could do it.
I know. I remember him saying it took him like 18.
Okay.
So
traffic.
If it's so I'm saying from Chattanooga-ish the other direction to Iowa, yeah, it's probably, what is it, 16 and a half hours?
It is 13 hours and 6 minutes.
Damn. All right.
13 hours and 19 minutes. I had it backwards and I flipped them just to see.
I really thought I was doing something there. So this won't hit for you probably because it involves
good.
It involves a cop like not hitting.
No, I mean, I like it when cops do the right thing.
This actually happened to us twice on that trip. We graduated high school, drove to Daytona Beach. Me, Thompson, Payne, Corey, Barlow, not Forrester, and the whole crew. 2 vehicles left at like 3 a.m. On the hill that goes down into Chattanooga from north, from 111 where we were coming. You go down this mountain basically into Chattanooga,
and you hit 27.
Yeah,
that goes through by my house.
Yeah.
I go 27 to Chattanooga.
So going down that mountain at like 3:30 in the morning, we're the only 2 cars on the road. We got pulled over by a state trooper who was lurking in the shadows, going
as they do,
going like 90 in a 55, right? Because we were the only ones out there, and he carted it. Bain was driving the vehicle I was in. I think Thompson was driving the other one. He pulled us both over. You know how they can do that or whatever.
Pull you over, you stay here, go get them, or you guys both just pulled over?
This has happened to me twice. They passed the back car and got in between it and the front car.
Okay.
And was behind the front car fucking doing the siren thing and
hand signaled the other?
Hand signaling while braking in front of to slow down the second one. It's happened. I've had that done twice.
I gotta admit, that's pretty cool when they do that.
But anyway, they did that, and they came up to Bain and asked for his driver's license. He showed it to him. We're 18 years old, and it says, Salina, Tennessee on it. This is Chattanooga. It's 4 a.m. He asked where we were going, and Bain said, we just graduated high school, so we're going to Florida. And he just goes, enjoy your vacation, and handed him the
slow down, boys.
Back. And I don't even think he said that, and just let us go. Even wilder.
Give me a hell yeah.
Even wilder, we got in Florida. We're going down an interstate in Florida. There's 2 vehicles again. We're hurling like snacks and little chocolate donuts and stuff like that.
To each other?
At each other. Yeah, on the road. Thompson.
Let's talk about the physics of that for a
second. Thompson gets out of the we're going interstate speed down the road, and Thompson gets out of halfway out of the passenger side door window.
Shirt on?
I can't remember. Probably not.
Yep.
And he's hanging out of it like this. We're behind his car. He's turned around backwards towards us, throwing donuts at us.
That
right?
rules.
And there was a cop.
Yeah.
And we got pulled over.
And he was mad you were wasting them donuts.
And he was furious. Exactly. That's right. Yeah. Anyone sees that coming a mile away. But they really were donuts. And he didn't. What he did do was he comes up and he's like, "What the hell were you?" He was real aggressive. What were you throwing at that other vehicle? And Thompson had like the bag of donuts. He was like, this is a donut. And he was like, oh, well, don't do that.
Thought it was rocks or something, maybe?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, he told him it was a donut and that we were his friends. And then the cop was just like, oh, well, hell.
But this is Florida. I thought you was trying to kill a stranger for a game.
Yeah, right, exactly. So, yeah, we...
Fun times.
Fun times.
Did you guys see any boobies that trip? Remember when that was a thing?
I think so. You know,
That's not a
not
thing
too
anymore,
many.
is it?
Seeing boobies on trips?
Like spring break. I think it's still a thing at Mardi Gras, but I don't think spring break girls flash as much because of the cell phone era.
The cell phone era, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, music festivals. It's a thing. We used to. I had this buddy that I just saw him at a wedding recently. I hadn't seen him in a few years. He was part of the crew that I went to Bonnaroo with every year. His name's Sharon. That's his last name, Sharon. And me and Sharon used to keep a running tally. Yeah, of how many boobs we each had seen. It was like a competition, like one of those little clicker things, you know. Yeah,
it's going away, that culture. It's really sad.
Titty culture.
The last time I was at Bonnaroo, the only titties I seen were my wife's out. Mm-hmm. She was just walking around. Mm-hmm. I think she maybe had butterflies painted on them, and then our friend Jazz flashed. I want to say Big Frida, who is gay, but that was pretty great. It's like, yeah, dump them out for that person who's not attracted to you at all, Jazz. You know, it was pretty great though. Shout out Jazz.
Hold on, Big Frida. That's not right? A woman.
That's a drag queen. Is why you think it's a woman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
And pronoun wise, I feel like Big Frida and Freddie are split, not personality, but like. I
Personas?
Feel like their persona, one is a she and one is a he, and they're comfortable with both, but I could be wrong.
All right. Well, yeah, so Cho's on his way to Iowa, and that takes 3 days or whatever, and then he'll get up there and get drunk with Amber's mama and whatnot, and then come back. I asked him on POA this week, which this will come out before POA does, but like I've always been kind of fascinated by families that get hammered together at the holidays, because like...
Andy's family does it.
Really? Because see, what I was going to say, my experience is like, because like, dude... I'm from like a dirtbag drinking ass family. My dad, you know, boozer, dope smoking heathen jean jacket guy, loved to party. His dad, my papaw, that's whiskey bowl papaw, wanted to drink a bowl of whiskey a night, literally. But around the holidays, everybody just acted like they didn't, because Meemaw's there, you don't drink in front of Meemaw or whatever. Every girl I've ever dated, their families don't drink at the holidays. I feel like Southern culture, I know that they exist, but I feel like it's more typical. It's atypical to have a family that gets drunk together at the holidays, like in the South, especially in the small town South, whether they're Jesus-y or not, because we ain't at all Jesus-y.
Well, my theory is the Jesus-y culture permeates, you know what I mean? Corey's in-laws are Catholic, are they not?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, Catholic.
My in-laws are Presbyterian, which I've been calling Catholic JV ever since I met them. Mm-hmm. They don't have as much money, and as best I can tell, they don't rape boys. I feel like evangelical culture, it just like removes drinking from family events. And look, probably for the best, because I think you got to be like somewhat stable and or get along for that to go well every year. And like, I've been in Andy's family 12 years now. We've only had about 2 issues.
Well, this is what I wanted to talk about, at least for a little bit this week, because I get asked every year around this time. I get asked by somebody, people on the internet or in an interview or whatever, if I go on any kind of serious show or just whatever the case may be, I get asked about, like, Thanksgiving's coming up. How do you deal with, those people at your, the difficult people at your family get-togethers, like, your drunk racist uncle, like that type of thing. And I always feel like kind of guilty, because like everybody assumes, like, because liberal redneck, I'm from where I'm from, and I am the way I am, that I'd be very well versed in that. But like, I'm actually, my whole family is this way.
Yeah, they're
much.
Like, ain't you got one uncle?
Right. I mean, no, my one uncle is a sweet old gay man who's,
I understand that question from an interviewer's perspective, if they're interviewing the entity that is the liberal redneck. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like, though, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm not trying to like call anybody out, do you feel like when regular, not interviewee type people ask that, it's like there's almost an implication there for me where I'm like, you sound like a dick. like, unless maybe you are thinking of one particular person who's impossible to get along with, but like, for the most part, you can't just talk about football for an hour.
I know. I mean, that's kind of what I've always thought, but I know that some people have this position of like, and I guess it depends on what they're saying, but just like some stuff you just can't let it. Like, I do remember one time we were going to Katie's families for the holidays, and this was in the peak of Duck Dynasty, right?
Yeah.
And her family was obsessed with Duck Dynasty.
Big time same.
That holiday season, every single member of the family, age, gender, irrelevant, all of them got some sort of Duck Dynasty merchandise. Like, dude, the amount of money they had to fucking make off that whole thing is just insane. But anyway, they were obsessed with Duck Dynasty, and Duck Dynasty Papaw, the patriarch, Phil, had just come out and said that, you know, gays burn in hell or whatever. Like, you remember that? Gay marriage don't hit, abomination, yada, yada, playing all the hits or whatever. Led to that Bill Burr bit.
Yeah.
What'd you think he thought? Right, yeah, exactly. So that had just happened.
Okay.
And we're going down there for Thanksgiving, and I told Katie, and I never felt like the need to do this before, but I told her, I was like, listen, I want to tell you, and you can tell them if you think you need to ahead of time. I was like, if all that shit comes up, I was like, I'm not going to just
let it go.
I was like, I'm not going to just sit there and be quiet if it goes down that road. So I might cause a scene if that happens, and I just want you to know that. And she was like, no one's going to say anything. And I was like skeptical, but then no one said anything, and it never mattered. So it didn't come up anyway. But I'm saying some people's position is like shit like that.
Yeah, no, I get that position. I do. That's what I'm saying. It's like, oh, you're thinking of a specific person who, in my opinion, is just. It's not that they're conservative. It's that they're a piece of shit. What kind of asshole is talking about gay marriage in the middle of me trying to eat this gravy?
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially if you're doing it because you know that I feel differently.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, if that's really what's on your heart right now, as we give thanks to the universe or our God or whatever you believe in, I don't know what to tell people. Like, that's a fair question. If they have someone in their life that's that impossible to get along with, you just can't. Fuck them. Like, you just can't.
Right. You just can't, get along with them?
Yeah, because,
but
not because what they believe.
Like,
tell them that. Be like, hey, regardless of your beliefs, the fact that you're like doing this, knowing how it's going to make me feel, makes you a piece of shit apart from your political beliefs. Do you know what I mean? Like, interrupting this meal with like your opinion, man. It's just like arrogant and narcissistic kind of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you said in 12 years you've had 2
blow-ups with
issues.
One was sort of about politics. I think I was getting tested. This was early on. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
Like, it was like, let's see where this guy who's turned our little daughter into a raging liberal, where he's coming from. And then the other one, I don't think it had anything to do with politics. It was like old family wounds between a brother-in-law and a cousin, niece, whatever.
That you got roped up into?
Oh, the second one had nothing to do with me. I mean, I had observed too.
Yeah.
The first one was more Andy and her brother. But I feel like it was about me. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
It was like, all right, new guy. And that wasn't a holiday, though. Not in the American version of that word. We were on holiday, but it wasn't holy. We were going on a cruise.
Gulf Shores? Oh, cruise, yeah. How many cruises you been on?
2.
Where you at on cruises?
Take them or leave them.
Yeah.
Had an okay time with Andy's family. It got a little long, and we couldn't dock at the island we were supposed to go to because of choppy waters, and that sucked because we already been on for 2 days. Then I did the Outlaw Country Cruise as Elizabeth Cook's guest. Had a great time. Had the wristband that I didn't pay for that time, and also like had all access to the backstage stuff. And it turns out,
well, that's different.
Getting treated like a hitter, hanging out with Lucinda Williams, way better than not.
Yeah, no, those like themed cruises, like festival cruises, like they have comedy ones, like the Impractical Jokers do a cruise. They bring a bunch of comics on.
Bert has one now too.
Bert has one. But also the music version, Outlaw Country. Like, those feel different to me. I feel like those would hit because you know what you're going to be doing while you're on the cruise.
Trae.
And you understand what hits about it.
Do you remember hanging out in Tampa before we really knew what those were with all those 311 fans that night?
Before we knew what was?
Those cruises. Because we learned about it that night, or at least I did. This was maybe year 1 of the tour. We were at a bar, And everyone, it was like the vibe was weird.
Yeah.
Because they knew each other, but they didn't. It was like, at first I was like, oh, this is some kind of conference. This is like a work thing. And we started talking to them, and we found out they were going on a 311, and I remember you, I think, said 311's big enough to have its own fucking cruise.
Yeah, I'm still surprised by that.
Those dudes it was Pill City. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. 311, yeah, could only have their own cruise going out of,
Tampa.
North Central Florida. Yeah, Tampa, yeah. Ybor City. The other thing I remember about the first time we went to Ybor City is I think we drove there from like Orlando, which is only an hour away, but we got there, which is not like us, but this is how I remember it. We got there, we went to eat because our timing was off, and it wasn't even noon yet, and that's important because it was like 11 or 11:30, and we went to this place to eat because we were all hungry. And we had never been to Ybor City before, and we're sitting there eating, and we kind of just like looked around at some point, we're like, everybody in here is fucking slaughtered drunk right now. Like
on a Thursday.
You just like look around and realize that like everyone is hammered, and it's like again at 11:30 a.m. and because
it was Key Westy.
Ybor City is like it's sort of like it's also kind of New Orleans-y, sort of,
but trashier than both those places. And if you've been to either of those places, there's a good trash element in both New Orleans and Key West. Even trashier and even more like Gatlinburg-y.
Right.
And there's chickens everywhere. You remember that?
Yeah. The street chickens.
Just loose chickens.
This dude, it is only because, so last time I was I did the Tampa Improv. Well, God damn, that's been almost a year ago. It feels like it was just a couple months ago, but it was in January, which is in Ybor City. I was walking back, and I was like walking through the parking garage that connects to my hotel, and it's after the show, so it's like midnight-ish. And I'm in a parking garage, and some guy like yells at me, like, hey man, whatever. And I try to just keep walking because I assume it's whatever. And he like chases me down, sort of. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I turn around, and it's this dude. He's like a 22-year-old black kid, and he was like, you know what's up with all these fucking chickens?
It was so important to him that he get an answer. Yeah. That he was like, I'm not letting this one get away. I've been ignored too many times.
Yeah. And I told him, I was like, I think it's like the mascot of this. Like, it's illegal to fuck with them or anything. Like they're like the Ybor mascots, the street
Ybor
chickens.
Fighting chickens.
Yeah.
The Ybor fighting street chickens.
Which I did look up the origin, but I don't remember now.
I did
Somebody
too.
just had chickens and they got out, and now there's chickens there. I don't know.
I could be wrong. I feel like this was the thing that they say. I feel like they said it like went all the way back to like when it was a major port, when the shipping industry was like way more important there. Because pirates is a big theme there too.
Yeah. Buccaneers,
right?
Pirate ship.
And I don't believe for a second that the chickens there just never went away from pirate times to now. But I think somebody reintroduced them under the like as a total tourist gimmick of like, welcome to pirate land. We got chickens walking around, because in the Caribbean that is common.
Where you at on pirates?
Love them.
Yeah. Okay.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Because it's
like a mafia on the ocean.
Right. And it's weird because they were sort of like egalitarian and everything, and like progressive, air quotes, like for the time in a lot of ways, but they raped and murdered and stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's, I feel like it's a bit of a mixed bag with pirates.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of pirates if I'm on. Like if pirates were around raping, I wouldn't be for it.
Right.
But as far as the stories
go,
go,
accepted trans people. Like
they did.
Nowadays,
No, they did. There's a few stories of ladies who
Anne Bonny and Mary Reed.
There you go.
Were their name. They had a three-way, a menage sort of relationship with Calico Jack Rackham.
Mm-hmm.
They were all caught and scheduled to be hanged together. They hung Calico Jack, and I think Anne Bonny too, but Mary Reed was pregnant with Calico Jack's baby at the time, and they wouldn't hang a pregnant woman. And then she was actually a rich girl from a plantation. Her daddy owned a plantation in the South Carolina colony or something.
Tale as old as time.
Right,
son.
ran off, joined the pirates.
Jack had the good dick.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, run off with the big farmer's daughter. But then her rich daddy got her out of it. Actually, it's not known with certainty what happened to her, but like a prevailing theory is that they know she didn't get executed when the other ones got executed, and the prevailing theory is that she, her daddy got her out of it. She went back home.
The most successful pirate of all time,
Chinese woman,
is a Chinese woman.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Like
are they hip?
Like all things
Except
with
for the
history, I know far less about her just because she's from China.
Yeah.
Like we don't learn or know shit about China. It's weird you bring this up. I've only just recently, and I mean just recently, I haven't really learned shit yet, but I'm about to start doing some Wikipedia diving on Chinese stuff because like they got a wild ass history and expansive. It goes back so far.
Yeah.
Most of the things that have ever been like invented or come up with, they did it first. Nobody gave a shit because they were doing it,
and now people complain about how they don't honor our patents, and they don't.
Right.
We started that.
Right. But, like, I was just reading yesterday about eunuchs in the Chinese dynasties.
There's a big theme?
Huge thing. The only men, other than the guards, there are only two types of men who are allowed to work in the palace, if I understood it correctly, in any capacity, whether you were, like, a cook or a flour tender or a fucking scribe or whatever. The guards were regular fellers. Every other male in the palace was a eunuch. Not through every dynasty, but for huge chunks of Chinese history, that's how it worked. And they'd have like 50,000 eunuchs on staff in the palace. Because I say the palace is really like
that's like 45,000 too many.
A mini city, you know. And it'd have like 50,000 eunuchs in it. So, and the origin of all that was that they couldn't fuck the emperor's concubines. And get them pregnant. And that type of thing. And that was like the origin of why they cut their junk off. But then it became a whole thing, and like ceremonially only eunuchs could hold these certain positions, and they were around and eventually became influential. And like some of them, like one of the guys considered to be one of the greatest military commanders in Chinese history was a eunuch. There's another eunuch who like overthrew an emperor or a dynasty or whatever.
I wonder what he was mad about.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying shit like that, like. You don't ever hear a word about none of that growing up in America or just in the West in general, I think. And I'm about to start diving into it. I'm about to start learning me some China stuff.
That's the age of dad you are. Because if dad's got to get a thing.
Usually, it's like if I was less of a queer, if I was more conservative, it'd just be your classic World War II, Hitler type deep dives. But I'm going Chinese with it because they're communist or whatever.
Speaking of queer, I do want to ask about your mustache. But before we do that, before we get there, I think about that a lot.
Chinese?
And I think about how differently the East's worldview is and perspective on what the world is. So I feel like people in Europe are probably more in tune with this kind of thing, and certainly people in Latin America and Africa. But like in America, our culture is sort of the world's culture. If by the world you mean Europe, Latin America, and major parts of Africa.
I was just talking about this with somebody. I don't think on a microphone. Was it you? About how like people say that like Europeans and stuff act like America has no culture, and I'm like, we're everybody's fucking culture. Right. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Have you ever heard of rock and roll?
Right, rock and roll with blue jeans, all that shit that y'all just also do. Like, all that is us.
Yeah.
You can't act like that's not us. Right? Yeah, exactly.
In China,
Europe pisses me off so much.
But in China, that's actually not true.
Okay.
Other than movies to a certain extent. Now.
And basketball, right?
But that's relatively new. Also relatively new. So their whole worldview, they know all the things you're talking about. But imagine how that makes you feel so differently about the world. Are they aware of who Donald Trump is? Yes, but not the way that people in Latin America and Africa are. That's crazy to me. I mean, think about fucking North Korea. As far as we're told, and maybe I'm off by this, they literally don't know shit about how the world's working.
No.
Because they're taught that they're leaders of God and stuff like that. That's like, and people go, okay, yeah, and you think about that and you move on. No, that's insane. That a whole country is like living the way a cult does in the backwoods of Appalachia.
Do you know, have you ever seen that M. Night Shyamalan movie, The Village?
Yes.
Okay, good, because that was seen by most as like the beginning of his fall off, which I don't disagree with. But like, he was still hot when that movie came out. In The Village, the premise of it is it's this like 18th century village that keeps itself isolated in the woods, away from the big towns because they're like puritanical and don't want to be corrupted. Also, there's monsters in the woods, whatnot. And the twist Shyamalan ending is that it's present day and they're living out in the woods and like, you know, in secret, and they don't know that it's actually the year 2008 or whenever that movie came out. Well, like North Korea, I think for a lot of people there, it's like is sort of actually like that.
Right. It's not 1800s, but it's a weird counter.
Right.
Well, I'm saying, so yes, two things are wild in my mind about that. North Korea is living in this culture that is not engaging with reality.
Right.
And that's insane. In the rest of the East, they're engaging with a culture that is reality, but it is completely different than mine and yours. Both are valid.
Uh-huh.
Because both are actual experiences as far as like moving through the world. It's just that I would imagine that growing up there, the way they're taught is like China's number one, and America's their just like we are the flip, right?
Yeah, except we're right and they're wrong though. But
sure, but they're celebrities. They think they probably believe Yao Ming is almost as famous as Michael Jordan.
I mean, but
and there he probably is.
And there's so many of them.
That's what I'm saying.
That like maybe he is.
What I'm
maybe
saying.
he is as famous or more famous.
That's
than Michael
what I'm
Jordan.
saying.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that Kevin Hart quote. Or no, it's a Dave Chappelle quote about Kevin Hart. Somebody's like, and Kevin Hart was able to do the crossover, and he was like, Kevin Hart was selling out huge arenas before white people knew about him. Mm-hmm. You're calling it a crossover because you're focused on white culture being the main culture. Same thing with like Asian directors. Like a lot of them, we hear about him and they're like, oh, he crossed over. It's like, no, that dude's a borderline billionaire right now. He has movies that have won many awards. He probably got some concubines. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. That really blows my mind. Obviously, someone living in Africa, someone living in Germany, someone living in America, someone living in China, they have very different experiences. But it seems to me that the East have a completely different framework through which they view reality, and it's a valid one other than North Korea's.
Yeah, that shit is wild.
World too big.
World too big. Yeah, world is too big. Before we started recording, my mustache, I told you it's like I'm doing a thing that is like 7 years out of date. It's so 2000 and late what I'm doing. Mm. But used to November, there was like a thing for a little while.
It was no shave November?
People, that or like Movember or Movember. They changed it. Mustache. Yeah, I don't fucking know. But you grow a mustache in the month of November. I don't even remember why I decided to do it this year. It's not even that far in. Well, I mean, it's like, goddamn, it is like November 20th, 21st.
Well, they're kind of in, and it looks good on you.
It looks so, like, yeah.
It's very different.
Hipstery or gay or whatever. It don't look like, because I wear glasses and this haircut and whatnot, like it,
No, I think they're unironically in now.
Okay. Because there's old boys who look right with a mustache, but I don't look old boyish because of everything else.
Yeah.
If I took these off and put a hat on,
sure,
had this mustache, then, I
call that
my internet costume.
We call that the corn dog effect.
Yeah, that I wear.
Well, the kids now, they're not doing mustaches.
It was to go to that NASCAR race.
Oh,
that's what it was.
The fact that you forgot, that's why the hat. That's the
right, yeah. Because I was wearing an Earnhardt shirt and I had a ball cap and I wasn't wearing. I had contacts in and I shaved everything but the mustache to go to a NASCAR race. That's why.
NASCAR Trae and Glasses Trae, who rode here on his bike today, that's the China and America of your life. Mm-hmm. They have very different filters to which they view reality.
Yeah. And neither of them really hits for me.
Well, that's depression.
Yeah, right. I know.
And the comparison we have there is just the never-ending march of modernity into the abyss.
But I said, I don't think it's even a thing anymore growing a mustache in November. And you were like, no, now all the kids are not jacking off, which I didn't know about.
We're coming. I don't think they're not supposed to nut during sex either.
So, no nut November. That's been a thing for at least, 3, 4, 5 years,
right? At least, yeah.
Is it? Isn't it also an incel-y type of thing? Yeah. Incel adjacent, at least.
Well, those folks attach
talk about
themselves.
Crossing over like a crossover success. I don't think some just regular people do it too, maybe. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely a contingent of like incel type of stuff, or like.
Well, they really
the Proud Boys had a rule you ain't supposed to jack off.
Sure, and they really attach themselves, the incel type parts of the internet, to anyone who's claiming to know what masculinity is, as long as part of it's hating women. And I'm not saying that people who started No Nut November hate women. I'm not saying that at all. The reason that you're associating, I think, with incel type culture is like they get really into anyone who's like, this is what being a man is. And that is...
How's not coming being a man?
It's supposed to it's like, quit watching porn. This will clear your mind. It's good for you. Show some discipline.
Don't you feel like... I mean, I've never attempted this, but like... isn't the conventional wisdom that it's the exact opposite in terms of clear? You know what I mean? Like that gunk.
Yeah, needs to come out.
That's
poison.
Fucks your brain all up. Makes you a lunatic, an animal.
So I think.
Right? So you got to get rid of that so you can be like a human person. That's how it actually works, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I think that.
So you're supposed to be more of an animal?
I think that most of us jack off too much, at least between certain ages, and that maybe is why people were attracted to this, because it was like, dude, every day. Like I saw something the other day. It was a doctor saying you're supposed to, between like the ages of like, I don't know, 15 to like whatever 50, whatever the ages are, you're supposed to have a release about every 3 days.
Okay.
As a man. So a lot of people in their 20s are doing it twice a day. So I feel like they think, oh, no, November is great because when I start it, I feel good. You know, after a while, sex feels better. Like if you stop jacking, you know what I'm saying? But I think a month's too long, like health-wise. Not just because I can't possibly do it and have no interest in it. I think it's legitimately too long. Don't you?
Yeah, hell yeah. But having said that, I mean, I bet I've done at least 10 days, if not 2 weeks, without trying before.
Yeah, me too. Recently.
Yeah.
With the post-baby situation.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I feel like you get older and if you have kids and just like life and stuff, you ain't jacking off twice a day.
No.
You forget entirely about just.
Well, I would be on the couch 10 p.m. just exhausted when Andy first got to the hospital, because he was crying all night, and then she was taking care of him in terms of feeding him and changing him, but I was having to bring him to her and bring her stuff constantly because she was bedridden for about a week, and she was in the hospital the week before that. So I would lay down on the couch at night, and I could then, but I'd be like, fucking just want to go to sleep.
Uh-huh.
And there were times like where my brain's too wired, and I'd be like, well, rub one out, I'll go to sleep. I didn't need any help going to sleep that night, you know what I mean?
For sure.
What you got?
I'm trying to find. Well, I was just going to look and see what I have, but I did remember one thing I wanted to say. You know, there's a name for this. Like, I don't think it's a real scholarly thing, but like more of an internet thing. It's like a theorem or a maxim or something. One of those things that says that if you want to find out, if you don't know something, you don't know the accurate piece of information or the correct answer, the best way to go about it is not to ask for it on the internet. It's to state the incorrect thing. So to state something about something that you know is incorrect on the internet is,
and then somebody will correct you
because someone will correct you, right?
This feels like a Reddit maxim.
That's a better philosophy than just asking the question.
Why?
Because people will be like, well, you don't know how Google works, let me Google that for you, whatever the hell. But if you just like say something wrong, they'll like climb over themselves to be the person that corrects you.
Right, that makes sense.
So I think we've already dipped into that some already, because like I bet we'll hear about it if I may have had Anne Bonny and Mary Reed mixed up earlier.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I did, but I'm saying if I did, somebody will tell us, I bet. Joe talks about all kinds of shit on POA, and it's funny. He like does like it's kind of cute, really, because it's like he's doing book reports every week or something.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Because he covers like fancy people from history and stuff, but like he approaches it sort of like a presentation in school or something, because you know he never went to college and is very showy about that fact and whatnot. So it's like he's like giving himself homework assignments.
And are people like saying he's wrong about stuff?
Yes, all the time.
Does it
and it's
bother
funny.
him?
No, I mean he gets very defensive.
Well, I'm trying to decide if he's doing it for them or for you.
But I sort of said this to him this week. I never realized it, because usually he covers these kind of obscure topics that I'm also not that familiar with. So I don't know. So he's telling me, and I'm like, cool, right on. I just take it at face value.
Yeah.
He'll get emails from somebody every week. So 98% of the people, 99% of the people listening, they are like me. They're just whatever. Oh, that's interesting. But there's always at least one person who actually knows this subject matter, and they will send him an email just like, what was that guy? You know what I mean? Like, you got that, that type of shit. Happens all the time. And I don't know. But then one time he went to cover a topic I do know something about, And I literally took it over from him like before he got through it. I finally had to stop it. I was like, can I just do this one? Is that going to bother you if I just do this one? He was like, no,
Do you remember what it was?
The Fermi paradox.
Yeah, what was he saying?
I can't remember. But he was like, pretty well butchering it basically. And I was like, no, this is why people be that way. Like, I understand, if you know about something.
Yeah, it's annoying.
Especially if you're on the other end of a podcast, you're just a listener. You can't interrupt.
Yeah.
So you're just like yelling at your thing or whatever.
Yep.
Well, anyway, so I do kind of understand that on the internet, but there's a similar phenomenon, I think, where you can just assume if there's any kind of negative angle on something or a way to take something negatively or a source of negativity with something you post or say, it will emerge in the comments, like at some point. So this happened to me this week, and this is what I wanted to bring up.
Oh, I know where we're going with this.
I
knew we were building to something. I was afraid it was going to be about me.
Katie put the finishing touches on the house I grew up in Salina the weekend before last. I was in Chicago doing shows. By the way, the Den Theater in Chicago, that is an incredible fucking room. I walked in, I was like, this is like arguably too classy for me. It's beautiful, and it's like, I think Sam Morril filmed one of his specials there, like a couple, not the last one, but the one before that. I think
OnlyFans did a thing there with the comedy thing they're doing.
Yeah,
I've seen a few clips. It looks gorgeous.
It's awesome, great. It's in Wicker Park, nice neighborhood, fucking a cool neighborhood too. Because Wicker Park, like if you stay in there's an old historic hotel in Wicker Park where I stay. It's called the Roby, and it's a tall building, and Wicker Park's like outside of Chicago, so you can see all of Chicago from the windows and stuff. And Chicago's like got the prettiest skyline in this country, in my opinion.
Yep.
Anyway, so that was great. But that's where I was at. Katie was in Salina, don't hit as much, working on my house, bless her heart. While she was in Salina, she ran across this litter of stray kittens, right? Just running a neighborhood. I mean, naturally, happens all the time. But Salina's got fucking stray. We don't even have any kind of animal control unit or whatever.
Yeah.
We got papaws will poison them or shoot them or, round them up in a bag and throw them off a bridge, the classic stuff.
It'd be a good company, like a way to keep papaws busy.
Yeah.
Just sign them up for animal control.
Yeah, unwanted, yeah.
They're just out there shooting them, cats out of kids' hands.
I'd say in front of your children in the yard and
just
stuff. Yeah, right.
Off.
So anyway,
you're welcome.
It's Salina's fucking redneck white trash place, so there's fucking loose animals all over the goddamn place. So she finds this litter of kittens and just, falls in love with one of them immediately. And the boys were with her too. And of course they were like, oh, we got to keep her. So next thing I know, Katie's having me call Delta and add a pet pass to their flights back to LA. And she went and got a carrier. She brings this little kitten home with her, and she is precious. She named her Gravy because she's like, ooh. She kind of has the color scheme of like country gravy. She's like
breakfast gravy.
Breakfast gravy. She's like a cream colored cat with like gray.
It's the best gravy.
Gray coloring.
Yep.
Yeah, that gravy does hit. But anyway, so she named her Gravy, precious little baby kitty. And so I took a picture of it on Saturday, which is Catter Day on the internet, right? Yep. And I said, well, we got a new kitten. My wife, and I put it in quotes, rescued this little girl from a tree in Clay County, Tennessee, that is true, but like I'm annoyed by the word rescue.
Right.
So to make fun
Cat's just living its life.
Cat's living its life, having a good time. So to make fun of that.
In the cat world, they call that kidnapping.
So to make fun of that, I said my wife rescued this little girl from a tree in Clay County the other day, although abducted feels more appropriate, right? Okay. And just trying to make it sort of some kind of joke instead of just saying, hey, here's my cat. But I knew, as soon as I posted it, I knew in my head, well, I was like, whether I said abducted, but especially since I said the abducted thing, I was like, I know there's going to be some internet smartasses telling me that my wife obviously stole somebody's cat, that whatever, there's no way that that's true or whatnot. She's a pretty kitten, right?
That's because people aren't from places like Salina.
Right, they don't understand that type of thing happens. I know, but I knew it was going to happen, so I posted on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and on every one of them, top comment, I put a comment that said, just so everybody knows, she confirmed that this was a stray.
Oh, you sweet summer child. You think they're going to read your comment?
She did not steal someone's cat. Right.
But they're not going to scroll.
And then so many people in the comments were just like, they're like, that is a $1,500 cat at least. That is a cat with a pedigree.
Yeah, that's why she stole it, bitch.
I know cats, and that cat, there's no way that was a stray cat. She 100% stole that cat fucking, and all this type of stuff. And it's just like, I've always said, like, the things that drive, people can say awful things to me or literally threaten my life or whatever in internet comments, and it don't bother me. But when people like assert things that are not true,
it's your way you're autistic.
That drives me insane. I cannot stand that. And so I backed right into this, but still I knew, I knew it was going to happen, but still it's so annoying. And then there were other people coming in there, like people from Salina, who were like, I live in Clay County. I know exactly the litter of strays he's talking about. There's still some here that need a home if anybody wants to come get them. This is 100% a stray cat, and then people are like, bullshit. Like, it's just
doubling down.
Yeah, of course they double down. That's all they know how to do is double down on the internet.
KFC, double down.
But it's like people just, I don't know, everybody's got like that person who's like basically might as well have been like, I am one of the premier experts on cats, on cat pedigrees or whatever, and I know that was not a stray cat, just with absolute certainty, and it's not.
The wild thing about that too is, what if it is this beautiful breed of cat? That doesn't prove anything about. So you still have never been to Salina. Do you not understand that an old boy who don't know shit about cat pedigrees would still be like, get that fucking cat out of here, I ain't feeding it.
Yeah, right.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, even if you have a level of expertise in a certain field, we're now talking about where I'm from that you don't know anything about.
Right.
But, people just march forward, going with God.
Now, I hadn't really thought about it that way, but now that I think about it, that actually is a good sign for the soul of Salina, that those kittens, that the kittens are just running around. And
nobody's shooting them.
Nobody's shooting them. Nobody's putting them in a bag and throwing them off a bridge. We had the Dollop guys on POA recently, and we did it here because they're on ATC, so they want to record it here. Before we turned it on, something got me talking about that, about how.
And they lost their minds.
They didn't lose their minds, but they were like, "Damn, bro!" Because I brought up the dam in Salina, the Dale Holla Dam, not just cats, dude. Like
bodies,
any kind of unwanted animal, or also just something they just wanted to see what happened if you, like, for example, threw a chicken off the dam, right? Like that type of shit.
I do think that's fading.
I never did that, but that was so common.
I had a cousin who hung a dog.
Such a pastime in Salina.
And it was awful.
You said hung a dog. Didn't he then shoot it?
Yeah, because it wasn't dying.
Because you said that, and I was like, I call that a Panama pinata. Sorry.
But here's the thing.
It's a funny joke, though.
But here's the thing about people being like, no way, or whatever. It's like, I think they don't do it anymore. That's why those cats are.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's good.
That's good.
Progress.
And my thing with that is like, yeah, man, it sucks that where I'm from, people were just throwing dogs off a bridge in 1992. What do you hear what else they had going on in their minds, hearts, and everyday business? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the past was a rough place. It was inarguably the most racist place you can be from. The past.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, you should have. The guy who was throwing them cats off, ask him what he thinks about black people.
Right.
But people don't have any capacity for that, especially when it comes to animals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just freak out about it.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like I forget. I don't forget. But yeah, the way people are about animals, it's like, yeah, you can't even
tell a story that is true.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or they're just appalled. The Dollop dudes weren't like that. They weren't like, Jesus, get away from us. But they were like, you could tell they were like, that's fucking hardcore, Because it is.
Here's the
hardcore.
difference, though. I think maybe you and I and people from where we're from and around our age need to internalize. You know how we also don't tell stories about the jokes that were passed around in the 8th grade?
Right.
Because we know people will be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, right.
Maybe we shouldn't. Do you know what I mean? Maybe we should just let the past die.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe the issue is, yeah, it's not that wild that in 1990 you saw an old boy throw a bag of dogs off a bridge. It's wild you're just telling me this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if it's somehow relevant to what else is being discussed, if you just bring it up on like a double date when everybody else is talking about the season of The Bachelor or whatever.
I agree. Do you remember the story? Of course you do, about that comic who started having crowd work with that girl in a wheelchair and made her cry?
Yes.
And I told that story on the Sklar Brothers podcast on their Patreon.
Yep.
I feel like every time I see them, they get tense. And I feel like that's why. And I was like, oh, right, I didn't do it, but they didn't want to hear that.
Right.
You didn't throw dogs off a bridge, but I just think people don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Last time I saw the Sklar brothers, I told them about the guy I worked with who purported to fuck cows.
Yeah, that's a more fun story.
Yeah, I think last time I saw them, I was on their podcast, when I told them. But yeah, that was another one where it's like, you could. So let me ask you, do you think, because I've only thought about this whenever I think back on it, I was 18 years old.
There's no way he fucked cows.
Okay. So he was just like fucking with the new kid.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
But that never entered my mind at the time. Like
it makes it so much better for him.
100%. But dude, God, I wish you could see this guy. I mean, this dude has got to be dead at this point. But like,
maybe he was just the greatest actor of his generation who never got a chance.
He talked like that, he did Walter. He talked down there, like literally, dude.
Get up on the back of that cow. You know their pussies look just like a regular woman's.
Yes, I had one train so good. I opened the gate. She'd lift her tail up like that.
I've heard that joke before, which is why I think it's a joke.
Yeah, and he talked about like hooking them by the nostrils.
Is that what the hook's for, according to him?
To get them under control or whatever.
Well, see right there. Shit. I mean, a cow's very long.
See, I was on. Do you know Jason Ellis, the Australian guy?
Yeah.
He rad dude. I did his show, and that came up. I don't know how this always comes up. Just because
what was your town like, Trae? Exactly. People murder dogs and fuck cows.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And then I get mad when people like judge where I'm from or whatever, and then I go out in public tell all this shit. And it's like
there's a whole town with an economy, religion, culture. Trae just walks in. I tell you what they're out there doing in Salina, Tennessee. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Cow fucking dog murdering.
But anyway,
leave the cats alone now, though.
When I was on Jason's show, that was like,
is he like Wolfman or something like that?
Hawk and
Wolf. He's Wolfmate is what he goes by. Yeah, I dig that guy.
Tony Hawk. Anyway, yeah.
That guy's hilarious because it took him like 8 years to come out of the closet on his podcast publicly. Yeah. I follow him, and it's very funny how he just like gets more and more comfortable because he's like really macho and tatted up.
But he also gets his butt fucked.
And he's a bisexual guy, and it was like he started out being like, sometimes I kiss guys, and then like 4 months later, he's like, sometimes I suck guys out. You know what I mean? It was just very funny.
No, when I was on there, he was talking about washing out and stuff. He's like, "No, man, you got to wash out." You know?
And the first time we were on there,
butthole out.
And then we did it a long time ago on Sirius.
That was on Sirius. Yeah.
And he said then, I don't know, I could be gay.
Right.
And like that's what I'm saying. Just like the progress. I'm very happy for him.
Me too. Yeah, very funny. Cool dude. But anyway, I hadn't thought of the guy, the cow fucker. His name's Walter. I hadn't thought of Walter in years until I did his show, which was like last summer-ish. And it came up on there, and he started like kind of picking holes in it, like you were just saying. Like I told the thing about like the nostrils or whatever, and he was like, "Well, hang on," he's like, "I mean, think about the logistics of that, mate. Like how long is this guy's arms, whatever." And that was when I was like, "Fuck, mate." That was the first time it ever crossed my mind that like maybe he did not actually fuck cows.
Yeah.
And this was just something they told the new kid, whenever they got one around there. They're like, "Hey, Walter, tell him about your girlfriends."
I'll confess, so you're not the only one who has to talk about like the embarrassment of something like that. There was a professor I had at a summer school thing called Governor's School, and he said that he had a student whose last name was Shatid, but they just called her Shithead. And people were talking about fucked up names, and I said that, and somebody was like, "That's not a real last name." And I was like, "Oh, you're right."
I always heard it as Shithade.
Is that how you spell it? Chithheade?
Just Shithede or Shithade.
Well, I looked for different variations. The closest thing I found was an African surname, and it wasn't that close. But I like my ego was so bruised, I was like, "This is what it is." But now I realize, I just got.
I always heard it in a racial context. I was going to say, I feel like that's one of those racist urban legend things.
It's like a black person's name?
A black name. I never heard it as a surname. I heard it as like
someone's first name, you mean?
Like
Ladasha.
Shaniqua Ladasha, yes. That one.
Kevin Teets swears that he had a client who had a dash in their name and you were supposed to pronounce it. But Kevin Teets also has said a lot of things that he believed and they weren't true.
Right.
Because he's altered his state of consciousness a lot.
There's more to Absidy or something like that, I think, which is just A, B, C, D, E, the first 5 letters of the alphabet.
I don't believe that.
Absidy. I don't know.
Well, white people also we had to take everything from black people, even that. And like, we now have no reason to say anything about the names that black people choose for their children. There's a Facebook group Andy's in. It's got like 1 million or 2 million people called That Name Is a Tragedy. But tragedy spelled with an EIGH at the end. Yeah. And white people are wilding. Every once in a while, she shows me one that I'm like, that's fake. And then she goes and shows me the post, and the person is arguing with people saying, I like this name. Because people will make fun of people. That's another thing people will find negativity in. Hey, we've got a new baby. The greatest thing of our lives. Here's the name. And just a bunch of strangers will be like, what the fuck?
I've told this multiple times. Anytime this ever comes up, I tell it. But Katie went to high school with a girl who has a son named Phoenix, and it's spelled F-H-O-E-N-I-X.
Phonics.
And it's like, you don't need the A. If you got the F, you don't need the H. You only need the H to turn the P into the F. It's totally redundant.
Do you remember that Brian Regan bit about people who can't read? I don't remember how he got to it, but he was going, hooked on phonics. Well, what's funny is that reads phonics.
Right.
Phonics. P-F-H-O-N. Jesus. How's that kid doing?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't have said a kid's name.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Well, whatever. I didn't say his last name, and also, hopefully I'm wrong about the relationship. It might just be somebody Katie knows on Facebook.
And we didn't mention his last name, so there's no way it could be any kid named F-H-O-E.
Yeah. I mean, I bet there's at least a couple.
That's true.
Not from the general southwestern Tennessee region, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. She's come up twice now. The friend from earlier, tits out at Bonnaroo Jazz. Her name is Jasmine, spelled J-A-Z-Z-M-E-N.
Okay.
That's a good spelling of that.
Jasmine.
Jasmine.
Yeah.
And right. I've like wondered if there's other people, and I've typed it in Facebook. There's plenty. All black. She's the only white Jasmine spelled that way that I found.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, there's at least one that I can think of, but almost every other Trae I've ever met is a black guy.
Right.
Yep. That came up on. Oh, never mind.
You get your podcast confused again?
No, I thought that I was texting Travis about a serious show I went on, and in my head, me and you were talking about that serious show, but we weren't. So I was going to reference something that we didn't actually talk about.
Call back to somebody else's relationship.
Yeah. I've been doing that. Like, I do got so many goddamn podcasts and Patreon stuff and group chats and everything that I can't keep straight the context with which I discuss things with people.
One time I tried to steal a hit from one group chat to the next. Like, my friend Chris sent me a funny meme. I'm going to send it to you guys. And I sent it back to the Chris group. And I was like, oh, my bad. Try to send that to my buddy. It's like, fuck. I got caught trying to steal the hit.
Is that what happens in our group chat sometimes whenever things get repeated often
I don't know.
by someone else's? And I think,
Corey and I both don't scroll up.
Right, yeah. So you both see something that hits
and we share
separately, and you share it without realizing that the other one already beat you to it.
Or like, because sometimes it depends on what I'm doing. I've been trying to put my phone down a lot and stuff. Man, sometimes y'all are like 100 deep. And if anything really hit, it'll come back up, is what I've decided. Do you know what I mean? Like, during the pandemic, I was fucking glued to that phone and all group chats, and now I'm just like, sometimes I'm in it, and I'm texting with you guys, and I'm the one sending 5 messages in a row. And sometimes I'm like, I don't have to do this, you know? But that does lead to repeats, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think we've survived. I think we did it. Yeah, listen, next week I'll be in San Francisco at Cobb's, then the Grove in Lowell, Arkansas. Then me, him, and Corey will be back together again for the Christmas shows at Zany's, just like every year. Go to TraeCrowder.com. Check out my dates. I got 2024 dates on there too, so come see me.
Quick story with my plugs. It's very quick. The mustache. I've been meaning to tell this the whole show, and I keep forgetting. Had a trial. It was a robbery in a park with a kid. The kid got arrested in a park where someone had gotten robbed on the other side of the park, and they did a show-up ID, and they were like, yep, that's the kid who did it. When the person who got robbed gave the description, they described someone with a mustache. They picked up my 14-year-old Hispanic boy who had, like, the thinnest...
Sure. Just like every 14-year-old Hispanic boy's mustache.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
And that was, like, our whole thing with the case. We were in front of an idiot judge who's probably racist, and juvenile trials in Miami are no juries, always a judge. So I was like, we're fucked, but let's argue it to the death. In my closing, I was focusing on that. I was talking about it, and I was pointing to my kid, and I was like, Your Honor, I asked him not to shave for the last month. This is the best he can, whatever. And I was like, that's not a mustache. And I turned, and there was a guard, old black man, bald head, like, eyebrows and mustache, the only thing on his face. It was just like yours, but way bigger. And I was like, that's a mustache. And that judge lost her mind laughing and then still found that fucking kid guilty. And that is when I knew I should be a comedian instead of an attorney, because I murdered in that room, but that kid still went to jail. I'll be in San Francisco the weekend after Trae at Cheaper Than Therapy. That's a little theater downtown. I'll be there Wednesday through Saturday headlining. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to see me work stuff out, come on Wednesday. If you want to see it more polished up, come on Saturday. And then, like you said, WellRED at the end of the year.
Yeah, hits. Thank you all for listening to the WellRED Show. We'd love to stick around longer, but we got to go. Tune in next week if you got nothing to do.
I can't get that note.
Thank you. God bless you. Good night and skew.